What was that on keyword research? Because I put in one of those orders.
Oh, yeah. One of those was yours. I said we got a couple of keyword research orders here recently. And it's like sometimes we'll go for a long stretch with no keyword research, and then all of a sudden when you get one. So you started a snowball. That's the way that's the way it used to be with photography. It would be like I'd be sitting there for 2 weeks with no jobs, and then I had this client, her name was Brenda from ReadyTag, and I swear every time she called, she would start a landslide. And it was like, hey, Brenda, you need to call me. I need more jobs. Call me. And I swear to God, every time she would call, like for the next 2 weeks, the phone would ring off the hook. It was crazy. So I know this is typically our traffic call. Are any of you guys at the spot where you want to talk about traffic yet? Or
whose hand is that? Oh, that's Gracie's hand?
Yeah, Gracie's ready for some traffic.
That's good. Hi.
Hi, Gracie.
Hi. Marketer in training.
Hey, that's the time to start them. They can teach you a few things.
Yeah.
You know how these kids pick up the computers? They're like a fish to water.
She knows the tablet better than I do.
Nah, I bet. I don't have trouble believing that at all. So anyway, before we hop into traffic, I wanted to kind of just brush back across some of the stuff we hit last week, in the copy portion. And, I did a really good breakdown of the landing page, our new ACT landing page. So if you guys haven't seen that, I've got all the videos up from our calls now. And I created a special YouTube channel for ACT Apprentice, and that's where I'm putting all of these calls up in there. So there's a link on the Apprentice page. You guys can get to it. But basically what we did for that page, and we did a couple of those on Tuesday for Gretchen and Cheryl, and we got a lot of headway. I think those little 4-hour sessions to really push through stuff, I think is really good. So I think that might be something that I incorporate in the ACT training for people when they get to a certain point. They can get one of those sessions to really move them forward. And I did another one, I think, was it yesterday, Anthony?
Yeah.
With Susan to get onto hers. And from Anthony's perspective, I think it was kind of an eye-opener, wasn't it? Of all the stuff I was pointing out and plucking at.
Yeah. And it goes to show, you kind of hit the nail on the head when if you don't go through ACT and they don't get the right pieces in there, and so you can, again, now it's easier to really look at something and say, this isn't really going to work because you're missing, it becomes glaringly obvious what's missing or what should be done on there. So, and you also kind of state a lot of people want to jump to traffic, and that was the case. She came, we all assumed she had been through ACT with us and she had had her ACT together. So we drove traffic to a situation, and the traffic is kind of fine, but the page is not ready for it, and that creates that lack of sales issue.
Well, how can the traffic be ready if she hasn't gone through ACT?
Well, but if someone comes to you and says, I'm ready and I've gone through ACT, and you just assume, because she was with us the whole time, and she's gone through some revisions. And so, again, if you came to me, Cheryl, and said, I'm ready for traffic, in the past, I would make that assumption you've gone through the process and you're ready. Now, based on these experiences, I will no longer make that assumption. I will want to go back and look at it, because the end result, it looks like the traffic is bad, and that's not always the case. Very
right.
The case.
I think for, John, I'm just going to throw this out there. For your time and your sake, I think people should have to show you some kind of workbook pages or something that they've been doing the work, because if they're coming to you saying they do and they haven't, you can tell. I mean, you can tell within minutes who's not
Yeah.
watching the videos, who's not even attempting. And I mean, that's up to you, but
No, you're absolutely right. And it doesn't take me minutes to figure it out either. It's at a glance. Like, you know, I think, didn't Gretchen even say she hadn't really gone through the program? You know, she went through the beta thing and where we were before, but now we've systematized the entire thing. I mean, we've got formulas for every step of the way, every piece of the puzzle. And it's like yesterday when I was looking at that with Susan and Anthony. Remember that every place I could pull you right back to where you missed the piece.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I could pull you right to the timeline or to the pyramid of awareness, or, you know, wherever you missed out, I could take you right there, you know, because it's obvious when you look at it, it's obvious what sequence is missed, where you're out of line. And it really is. I mean, this is all about conversion. You know, the ACT program is all about conversion. You know, we throw traffic on the end of it, but if you've got the conversion right, any traffic will do. You know?
Yeah.
Actually, not any traffic. You got to have the right traffic. You have to have the right audience, obviously.
Yeah.
But
You can almost make mistakes though with the traffic, and it will, you know, you'll get more people. But if the page isn't right, good traffic just doesn't. It doesn't resonate. It just doesn't work. So
yeah, it's kind of like the better you are in the first two steps, the sloppier you can be in the third.
yeah.
Now, if you're sloppy in the first two and you're right on the third, it's still not going to work. That's really the case. You know, those first two steps are absolutely critical to, you know, to get the message right, because that's really the piece that's going to convert. If you take the right message to the right market, it's any kind of traffic that's, you know, the traffic of who you need to be in front of is going to convert. That's just, you know, it's the way it's always worked. You know,
One of the other things they'll let you do too, John, is you know, tweaking the traffic in and getting those extra percentage points in, because again, you can start off with a broad amount of traffic, but if the message, you're going to get some conversions, and then you're going to say, okay, I can see what I got going on now. Now I can tweak and dial the traffic in. And then once you get that element, then you go to the scaling piece of it. So to me, in my mind now, it's starting to make better sense and starting to follow very logically how to get to the bigger, you know, the $1 million funnel, how they get there. And part of this, the process, sometimes it's not shown in these fancy webinars where they, you know, do this for $2 a day and you get 10,000 leads or whatever, all this crazy, the great claim they make, you know, they don't tell you that, okay, walk through these parts and these pieces and get there to get where you need to go. And now we're seeing that, yeah, this is the missing side of the story.
yeah, that's all. And there's so much to it. Like, there's even pieces that are really important that I hadn't put much weight to in the past, but I see now that it's that fractional percentage of conversion that can make the difference for you. And one of the things, like we're preparing to do the webinar launch, and, you know, Brian was telling me, he's the one that's doing our funnels, our done for you funnels, and he's got experience with us. He's been doing the funnels since 2006. So he's got, you know, several funnels that are, you know, well over $1 million in sales annually. So this is somebody that really knows what he's doing, and he's very used to running webinar funnels. So when he was looking at mine and looking at my sequence, he pointed out a couple of things right off the bat that he said, we need to get you to 10% conversion. And the only way to do that is by doing these couple of things. And one of the things that he said was, to get your webinar to convert, you have to convert the show up ratio. So not on a webinar, not only do you have a sign up ratio, but you have a show up right, you know, it's how many people will sign up and how many will show up, and then how many will buy. So the more that you have show up, those are the ones that are going to buy. Anybody that doesn't show up is not going to sign up. There's, you know, it just doesn't work that way. So you could say, yeah, I had, you know, 4,000 people sign up for my webinar, but only 40 of them showed up. You know, that means you're working with 40. So that traffic cost is not divided by 4,000, it's divided by 40. That means your cost to get somebody to show up for that webinar could be astronomical. If you just put the sequence in to make sure the showed up, then your numbers would work. And this goes back to, I've seen Frank Kern do this over and over and over, and I didn't really piece it together, but what he does is he does what's called an indoctrination campaign. And the whole reason for that is if you're going to cold traffic, this is way different than people that know you. So when you're going to Facebook and you're going cold traffic and you're going out to the world, they don't know you. So they're gonna fall in love with your claim, but for them to buy from you, they've got to have a belief system that they can trust you, that you know what you're doing and you can provide the result for them. So they don't have that to begin with. So your odds of them actually showing up to the webinar, they don't have any emotional connection to you. You know, at the time they saw your ad, they have an emotional connection to the outcome. And that's why they signed up. But they're going to show up because they believe you can provide the solution. You can deliver the result for them. And if you don't build that during the time they sign up to the time they're supposed to show up, a huge percentage of drop-off is going to occur. So the indoctrination campaign is critical. And Russell Brunson, you know, I hadn't been looking at Russell's stuff because I've been following Todd Brown, you know, in Florida and learning his routine and all that. But when I take his routine and I take what Brian's doing with the, you know, with the ClickFunnels routine and Russell Brunson's routine, and I combine them, it's like now we've really got something potent and powerful. Like when I was down working with Brian, putting our pages together, he was actually learning stuff from me out that came out of the ACT program. It's uncanny the way his program and the ACT program mesh together. It's like he's taking it right out of our playbook. You know, the questions he asks, they come right out of our analysis. So it's like, in anyone that knows what they're doing, like him included, if you go to them to have them do work for you, and I don't care if it's a guy that's building your funnel or a guy that's writing your copy or a guy that's doing your traffic, if you go to anyone to get pieces of this done and you don't have that analysis base under you, you're not going to be prepared. When you sit down, they're going to start asking you questions. And if you can't answer them intelligently and correctly according to your marketing plan, then they're just going to be winging it. And you're going to get wing it results. And wing it results don't convert enough to be profitable. So that's what you got to really be careful of, is that. So with the Russell Brunson's program, when he does the webinar formula, he puts the 3 secrets below. And, you know, with me, from what I've learned from Todd Brown's thing, is to eliminate everything off that page and just trying to get them to opt in. But with Russell's, it's you've got that at the top, but if they want more information, they scroll down and they see the 3 secrets, and this is what they're going to learn by showing up. So this is the first piece to try and get them to show up to the webinar, is revealing the 3 big takeaways that they're going to get for showing up. It's like, here's the reward. You know, we got this free thing and it's awesome that you signed up, but here's the reward you're going to get for actually showing up. And then you sequence the webinar for when they sign up at least 3 to 4 days afterwards. And that allows you the time to run your indoctrination campaign. And what that is 3 days before the webinar, you send them the first video. And the first video is just a short little video introducing yourself, thanking them for signing up, and revealing what they're going to learn in the first secret and how important that is and what they're going to get out of it. And then tell them, you know what, I'm going to talk about secret 2 tomorrow, so expect my video. And they should be excited enough from the first one to be waiting and anticipating the second one. So tomorrow, second day before the webinar, your video 2 shows up. This is indoctrination step number 2. And all it does is it just reveals secret number 2 that was on the page that they signed up for. It's all congruent. Again, they get to see you, they get to experience you, and you're giving them something good. You're giving them a takeaway right now that, you know, they're going to be excited about. And then day before, same thing. Last one in the sequence, they get secret number 3 revealed. Now, in those 3 days, you're building anticipation for the webinar to come and all the other cool stuff that they're going to get out of showing up. So your chances of them showing up now, because you've staged it 3 days in a row, warming them up and walking them right to the front door. So your show up ratio now should be pretty high. And then he also layers in SMS text messaging as a reminder system. So the day before the webinar, they get a text reminding them to clear their schedule because the upcoming webinar is going to be very powerful for them, and lists the things they're going to get for showing up. And then the day of, they get the text message 5 to 10 minutes before saying, make sure you jump on now because the seats will fill up and you might get locked out. So it's scarcity. It's making sure they even hop on early. You know, the thing, if you show up on time, you're late. And with a webinar, there's only so many open seats, and that's not a joke. There actually is. I've gone to webinars, 5 minutes late and been locked out before. And you have to actually wait until people fall off and it opens up a webinar seat and you can log back in. So, I've also made the mistake of being logged into a webinar and logged out to go to the bathroom. When I came back, I couldn't get back in because my seat was full. So, that's true scarcity. So, you want to emphasize that. You want to say, and that's also social proof. When social proof is in play and they think there's that many people, what's that mean? This thing's got to be awesome. I want to be involved. You want to be involved with the crowd of what everyone else wants. So that social proof, that's another piece of it. There's a lot of underlying meaning to this indoctrination campaign, which makes it so powerful. So that's kind of like a combining of, the Todd Brown's E5 camp and Russell Brunson's formulas. And that's what, we should be using in the ACT formula, because it's taken everything. I mean, when you set up a marketing campaign, you want to use everything at your disposal to get your conversion as high as possible. For when you go to the traffic, everything comes through, everything makes sense. So again, this is supposed to be a traffic call, but it's so important. I wanted to go back a step and just cover that you want to make sure you're truly ready for that traffic and you've done everything in your power to be ready before you buy the traffic and before you send it through. It's never going to be perfect either. You're never going to do a marketing campaign and get it all 100% right and send the traffic and never make a change. That's not going to happen. But the better you can get it from the base, the less you're going to bleed from the beginning. Because there's always some bleed in the first part of a marketing campaign. I don't care who did it, there's always a bit of bleed in the front end. Because there's certain things you haven't anticipated. You're going to test things, you're going to test images, you're going to test audiences, you're going to test headlines, you're going to test ads, you're going to test landing pages. You're going to test all this stuff to see where you can get the best conversion. And I know guys that have been testing for years and they still get better conversions. If you look at Perry and Ryan, they are masters at this. Traffic and conversion was built on the premise of testing. Those guys, the first year I went to traffic and conversion, they had a 400-page manual that they gave to everyone that came in. And it was a pretty good crowd. It was about 250 people at that, back then in that first event. And we got this 400-page manual. It was absolute gold. It was every split test that they had done and the results. And the percentage increase in conversion of everything you could think of. even as far as like button placement, button colors, font styles. I mean, you name it, they tried it. And they documented everything. And they had this. And, you know, it doesn't, every rule doesn't apply across the board, but it's a really good thing to have a base knowledge of knowing putting the button in the bottom right corner above the fold. You know, that almost across the board is where you put it. That gets the best conversion. You know, making sure that the button color stands out from the background. Not necessarily what color the button is, but that it pops off the page, it calls to you. You know, those kind of things. And again, it's interpretation of the data. I talked about this on the call at 11 o'clock. It's a lot of what we're doing is we're interpreting data. Like when we do the analysis process, we're not going into any of those tools and them spitting out exactly what our perfect avatar is. There's a lot of information that we're taking in to interpret, to figure out what is our most profitable market. Who is our ideal client inside that profitable market? And what should the messaging be? You know, a lot of that stuff is we're interpreting it from data. There's no one thing that's just going to spit everything out and say, here it is, here's how they speak, here's what you should do. You know, I wish it existed. And if it did, we could sell the holy bejesus out of it. But it's just not there. So, you know, in SEO, I used to tell everyone that would come to me for SEO and I would train them. I said, look, this is a thinking man or a thinking woman's game. This isn't a game where you just come in and you play happy-go-lucky. You've got, I mean, this is a thought process, the thinking man's game, and so is marketing. It's like, you know, you've got a mouse out there and you're trying to figure out, how am I going to trap this mouse? And a lot of times you need a better mousetrap. That's what it comes down to. So, and in this, if you think about it, that's really what we're trying to do. There's mice out there that we want to sell them cheese. So we got to figure out how to get them into our house to get them to consume our cheese. So that's, you know, and Perry Belcher, he made a phenomenal statement one time that I absolutely love. And he says, he called it whiskers and cheese. He said, you've got to remove the whiskers or they'll never take the cheese. And I was laughing. I got it right out of the gate. I knew exactly what he was talking about. A lot of people don't get that. I have to break it down. It's like, if there's a piece of cheese sitting in front of you, and that's all you can see is that cheese, and then there's some whiskers poking out of the top, you know, that probably means there's a cat behind it. So as soon as you take a bite of the cheese, you're gone. You're going to get eaten. And a lot of times when people see advertisements, they feel like there's whiskers behind the cheese, and they're not going to take it. You know, one of a really prime example of that is some people have been burnt before. They put their email address into a form, and then they got 10,000 spam messages from some spammer. So there's whiskers now on that cheese. So you've got to remove the whiskers. That's where, you know, a perfect example of removing the whiskers off the cheese is the micro commitment. It's putting the button there to download the item before they even see that they have to put their email address in. So once they click it, they're committed. Now they're more likely to put their address in because you remove the whiskers from the cheese. So that's kind of a really cool analogy that Perry made. And he is an absolutely brilliant marketer and copywriter and has tested things to the ends of the earth. So when he says something, I tend to listen, you know, as far as it comes to the marketing side. When he needs SEO advice, he calls me, and I'm the one he listens to. So I wanted to share that with you because that is really true, that whole whiskers and cheese thing. So, you know, with all of that said, that kind of brings us to the next step, which is, you know, what this call is all about, comes down to the traffic. Now, as far as traffic goes, I want you guys to understand there's a few things that's really important about traffic. And it kind of goes back to the pyramid of awareness of where is your ideal client on that pyramid. You know, if you've built a mousetrap for somebody that is on the level of awareness of product aware, they already know there's a problem. They've been through that education process. They know there's solutions, and now they're hunting for products. If you know that, that's going to dictate where you get your traffic. If you're in that situation, going to Facebook is not the best traffic source. If you're in that situation and they know what they want, they're hunting for a product, they're actively searching. So you want to meet them where they are, and that's Google pay-per-click. That's Bing pay-per-click. That's in the Gemini network, which includes Yahoo and some other search networks. So when people are searching, you want to make sure you're there in front of them. Now, if they're further down the pyramid, like let's say the bottom, for instance, which that, by the way, is the biggest opportunity. That's where you'll make your most money, is if you can address them in the unaware phase of that pyramid. That's your biggest audience. It is also the longest sales process too, because you've got to educate them. You have to take them from unaware to problem aware, solution aware, product aware, and offer aware. So it's the longest sales process, but I'm telling you right now, it's your biggest opportunity. You know, it's like Perry did a thing on nail biters. Most people that bite their nails, they're not aware that it's a problem. It's a habit. They just do it. But when he addresses it and brings it out in the open, and he reticularly activates them to, hey, this is a problem, and let me point out the things you're suffering from that you might not be aware of. Like, people judge you on the fact that you got these chewed up nails. What are they going to be thinking about you? And people that significance and appearance are important to them, they'll automatically be aware now of a problem they weren't aware of 5 minutes ago. So they're reticularly activated, and now they're going to be conscious about it. They're going to be thinking every time they meet someone and they shake their hand, they're going, oh my God, you know, my nails look horrible. And Perry, he was not able to sell them on the first round because the belief system wasn't strong enough. It wasn't in place yet, and there wasn't enough pain to make them buy it right out of the gate. But he did a follow-up sequence, and all his follow-up sequence was the headline was "Still biting your nails?" ? And the email, all it said was, if this is still a problem and it's become big enough for you to want to solve it, click here. He sent the exact same email every time. He figured out, I don't remember how many days it was, but he figured out how many days it is before your nails grow enough to be biting them again. And he was sending them in that cycle. You know, I think it was like every 14 or 18 days or something. And he said it was usually the 7th email that converted the best. He hit them with the still biting your nails 7 times before they bought. But then a big majority of them bought. So understanding your market is critical. What if he didn't do that? What if he stopped at 6? You know, what if he stopped at 5? He would have missed out on a pot of gold. So testing and, you know, running this and making sure that you follow up. Everybody will tell you this, and it's absolutely true, but most people don't understand what it means. The money is in the list. The more people that you can get to opt in, that gives you the ability to reach out and communicate with them. And you've probably heard this and maybe not, but the more exposure you have to a product, the more likely you are to purchase it. Like, have you ever gone into the supermarket and you're walking down the aisle and, you know, let's just take something that everyone uses, is toilet paper. And you walk down the aisle and there's 40 different brands of toilet paper. And you just pick one up and put it in your cart. Do you ever wonder why you picked that one? You know, you probably weren't reading the labels and comparing them and all that. You just picked one up. And a lot of times it was from the advertisement and the number of times you were exposed to that and you became familiar with it. Unknowingly, you've got this familiarity with the Charmin, you know, and you even go up and squeeze it. Why is that? You're not squeezing the Scots, you know, You're not squeezing the rest of them, but you're squeezing the Charmin. You know, it's because that training, that subliminal seduction, they've hit you over and over and over with, please don't squeeze the Charmin, Mr. I don't remember who it was, but, you know, and I haven't seen that ad. I haven't watched that kind of TV where I would be exposed to that ad for probably 10 years. But that's ingrained in me. I'll never forget the Charmin. You know, I'll be 80 years old and I'll still be squeezing the freaking Charmin. So that is that repetition, and you can do that when you get their email address. But if you don't have a mousetrap to get their email address, you'll never be able to do that. So all the traffic in the world is not going to save your skin. You know, you've got to convert. It takes traffic and conversion. So when you get that conversion piece and you drive the traffic and you start building your list, now your marketing campaign begins. All this work that we put in, now it's actually working for you. It's that follow-up. It's making sure. And the follow-up doesn't end at the sale. Everybody thinks it ends at the first sale. My God, that's where it begins. You know, when you begin, you give them, you make the sale. Hopefully your sale delivers the result they bought into. Now you've built another level of trust and rapport with them. You know, it's almost like that indoctrination campaign continues. And what happens once you deliver the result? Their timeline all of a sudden comes to an end. And everybody thinks it's over, but all that means is the timeline just begins again. Nobody's ever happy where they are. If you're on the beginning of the timeline, you're not happy. You want to get to the end of the timeline. You want to get to the desired outcome. Once you get to the desired outcome, all of a sudden you're not happy again. Now you have a new desired outcome. It's a little bigger. It's a little bolder. It's, you know, it's a couple steps ahead. Now, how do you get to that? You need another product, another coach, another whatever it takes to make those steps. So that's where, you know, acquiring a customer is just a little tiny piece in the very front of your marketing campaign. It's that follow-up. It's that nurturing. It's that creating a lifetime value out of that customer. And sometimes it takes going outside your comfort zone. It takes going outside your skill set. You need to figure out what's their next step. And you don't have to be the expert in that. You just have to find who is and connect them and make a few bucks in the process. A lot of money is made in the follow-up and the connections in knowing what they need next. So pretty cool stuff. I feel like I'm preaching here. and I apologize if that's the way it's coming off, but I'm just trying to get these points out in somewhat of a sequence that everybody gets the importance and why they're there. So it's my hopes it'll prevent you from skipping. My hope here today is to prevent you from skipping ahead into traffic before you're ready. There's a lot of little pieces and little moving parts that you need to address before. Because here's another thing that I see, and I've been guilty as sin of this time and time again. I have wasted more money on this one than I can even count. And I will do a campaign. I'll send the traffic. I will get the opt-ins. I'll get the conversions. I'll make the sales. And then I don't do the follow-up. My list goes cold. I do nothing with it. I've done that for the last 20 years. And hopefully that's going to stop. I'm going to task every one of you to hold me accountable for not doing that ever again. Because when I look back at how much money I've left on the table just because of that one, it's just lazy. That's all it is. Not that I don't know what to do or how to do it. It's just lazy. And now I'm smarter than that. And I know I can just have people do it for me. So I'll hold you guys all accountable to make me accountable to get somebody to do that so it never happens again. So anyway, as far as traffic, Anthony, we have our resident traffic expert here from he's been doing a lot of stuff with Facebook, some really cool stuff with finding unique audiences and stuff that that converts pretty good. He was actually getting some pretty decent traffic and stats on the front end of a campaign that the back end was a disaster. You know, they were getting the clicks. The ad didn't seem to be the problem. So they were getting the clicks. The people were showing up, and you know, not as many as I would have liked to have seen signed up, but a lot of people signed up for the opt-in. So they had conversion on the first piece, but where they were losing it was when it went to the sale. And there was some glaring nasty things about the next couple of pieces to their puzzle that it was no shocker to me that no one signed up for the offer. And hopefully we address those, and hopefully they're on the next round, they'll try it again and get that to convert. Here's the other really cool thing about that. If you've got them to opt in, but you didn't make the sale, guess what? You have another chance. And always go back and take that audience and bring them back and try it again. Where if you didn't do that, if you didn't capture them on the front end, you don't have that. It's a lost opportunity.
And let me say this, guys, too. And again, I know a lot of this is advanced stuff, so we'll probably hit it multiple times when you guys are at the traffic stage. But I've mentioned before a lot of times, and John kind of alluded to it just now, if you get the pixel on your page, your site and stuff like that, that's another way to go back and get these people. So even if they don't opt in, because they hit your site, you got them pixelized, and now you can still come back and market to them. So it's not, that's an important piece. So again, I said before, from day one, as you're building this, get that pixel on your site, get it set up. And even if you don't know when and where you're going to use it, it's collecting data for you from the get-go, and you will be able to utilize that. So that's one thing. I like that John's talking about this, because again, as someone who's been driving traffic for quite a few people, and every now and then you get the results, you don't get the results you're looking for. Again, like I said earlier, it's becoming very apparent where the problem is. So again, don't jump to this traffic. It sounds easy and fun and quick and stuff like that, but again, getting all the other stuff makes this it makes it the fun part, because now that all that work starts to turn into currency, into cash type of thing that you've done. So while you're sweating and doing that research, and it's boring and laborious and just not fun, realize that when you get to the traffic and you got all those pieces, it goes pretty quickly, and you're starting to see your results. You get that tangible. Okay, I got a lead, I got a sale, I got a conversion. That's $2 in my pocket. Again, I just have to keep replicating and multiplying that type of thing. So don't skip ahead, if I said so. Another thing that I'm running into with a new client I just talked to yesterday, and John, I was going to kind of ask you if you got nothing on your plate to talk about it or put it in there, is understanding or getting that long-term value of the client. And to give you the example, we're going to, we did a test campaign. We found out what we can get, what clicks for the client. But at this point, I haven't had that conversation with him to know what the value of the clicks I've been getting for him are. So I don't know if it's going to be profitable for him. I can get him clicks, I get him traffic, but I don't know if the traffic is profitable, because I didn't ask the question yesterday, what's the long-term value? What is it really, what does he get from this click, when I get him a customer? So learn that number, and it guides you towards your cost of acquisition process. So you now know, okay, if my click is 30 cents and then it takes 2 or 3 more emails, you kind of add these different cost factors in and say, okay, now it's going to cost me $5 to acquire a client, or $10, and my profit is $20. Okay, this is a profitable campaign, and this is something I should pursue. Or my cost to acquire this client is too high. Let me go back and look at where I can tweak and tune and get that cost down a little lower. Or I'll find out this is not very profitable. So know your numbers in terms of what it's going to cost you to acquire this customer, and their long-term value to you will also help you in the traffic campaign side of things.
Yeah, that I've been hitting on that quite a bit lately, and that is really important, is your lifetime value of the customer. You guys, I don't know how many different offers that you buy and see. I go through a lot of them, if nothing else, just to see the process. And there's a thing called a bump offer.
Yeah.
And this is a lot of times where they can get enough money to pay for their ads using a bump offer. And what a bump offer is let's say they're offering a $99 product, and they're spending $99 to make a sale. So really there would have been profit, but there's not in the client acquisition. So when they're at the shopping cart and they got the $99 item in the cart and they're getting ready to close out, the bump offer is, would you like to add fries with that? That's in McDonald's, that's a bump offer. Some people might call it an upsell, but they're calling it a bump offer in the funnel world now. So it's that adding that extra profit piece on that takes your break even on your ad and turns it profitable. So that's a way to do it right on the front end. If you know that the person is going to buy the $99 item, and then within 2 months of that, or within a month of that, let's say within 30 days, they're going to consume that product, and it's going to lead them to buy a $400 item or a $500 item that accompanies it, takes them to the next level. And you know that 20% of your people are going to buy that, and it's pure profit. Now you can take those numbers and you can factor those forward to the average value of a client, and you know how much you can afford to spend on the front end to make it worthwhile. So that's kind of it's not any set standard formula. It's different for every situation. You've got to look at what you're doing and see what those numbers look like for you.
Let me give you guys another example. We're working with a client in the health vitamin products and stuff. So he's got a product, a 30-day supply that's selling for approximately $60. And in talking with him, we said, well, what's the retention? What's the lifetime value? And he's like, people normally stay on for at least 3 months. So now if he knows that they're going to stay on for 3 months, and he's selling this at $60 a month supply, and he's got $180 at the end of this client life cycle that he's going to potentially make in this process. So that changed his ability to do his marketing, his ad dollars. He could afford to spend up to like $150, knowing that by the end of the third month, he would make his money, his profit at that point. So he wasn't trying. We had that conversation, and he was like, I don't have a lot to spend. I was like, no, you do, because they stay on for 3 months. You got 3 sales coming. You know that from your data, your information. This is how much you're going to make. So your profit is not in the front end like John's talking about with the bump order, but it is at a different point in your customer life cycle. So knowing that, we were able to show him he could spend a little more money to acquire that client, and now he's going to make his money, and he sees where he can make his money at, where he's going to make his money at. That helps a little bit.
Like another example, in our business, with commercial SEO clients, traditionally over the years, a commercial SEO client is probably worth, $2,000 to $5,000 a month. There's about 50% of that that's profit. So they last with you for years. If you do a good job with them, they literally last for years. So if you're going to make $1,000 profit over 2 years, that's $24,000. Could you afford to go in the hole for the first couple of months to get that on the back end? Probably. So, if you're only making $1,000 a month and it costs you $2,000 worth of ads to convert a customer, but over the next 2 years that's going to bring you $24,000. That's a good deal. It is an investment though. A lot of people think they're going to put money out and get it back instantly. And there's no investment I know of anywhere in history that's been like that, other than quite possibly prostitution, maybe. and even then, it's not instant. It's 2 minutes. So, but in the investment world, you put money out there to work for you to bring money back. And this is no different. So, and I know that's been really twisted by a lot of these speakers and internet marketers, because they're trying to get you to invest in their shit, and they spin it in a very different way. But what I'm talking about is actually investing in customers that are your bread and butter, that are going to bring you back money. You're going to put money out, acquire them, and they're like little soldiers. They're going to bring you money every month. That's what I'm talking about when I'm referring to, investing in your business. I'm not talking about buying a bunch of stuff that you'll never use. I'm talking about buying customers that are going to bring you money. If you look at, very wealthy people and you look at their spending habits, what they spend money on, they don't spend money on stuff that doesn't make them money. A lot of times when you look at some really, really wealthy individuals, they live kind of meagerly. They don't have a bunch of like little bells and whistles around them. Like I knew a guy that was a multi-millionaire. And this was when me and my brother were in business. I was like 16 years old. And I see this old guy out picking weeds. And I told my brother, I'm like, man, I feel sorry for that guy. Here he's like, he should be retired. He should be home, with his family, enjoying the rest of his life. And he's got to be here picking weeds in his, old dirty clothes. And I told my brother, man, I feel sorry for that guy. My brother laughed at me. He said, that guy's probably one of the richest people you're ever going to know. He owns all these buildings. He's just here, picking weeds just for fun. He's got nothing better to do. And I'm like, it really, it was really an eye-opener for me when I was like 16 years old. So it changed my, judging a book by its cover for sure. And it also was like, why would he do that? If he's got all that money, why would he do that? My brother said it's because that's what makes him happy. I'm like, okay, that's cool. He could be happy. And I had a whole different outlook on him. I'm like, that's awesome that he could do that. So it changed my whole perception. And, but again, he wouldn't spend money on fancy stuff. He drove an old car. He didn't wear fancy clothes. He didn't spend his money on stuff for vanity. He put money into buildings. He bought buildings. When he had extra money, he'd buy another building. And those buildings made him money. And this guy had more money than he would ever spend. It wasn't even about the money for him. It was about the mindset of how he valued money. For him to buy something just for glitz or glamour, to him, his belief system was that's wasting money. I don't waste money. I value, I cherish my money. And it's a different mindset. So, that's the thing. If you if you look at it that way and your numbers, it's really, really important. I've said this over and over and over. And that to you guys should mean it's important. When you hear me say something again and again and again, I don't like to just hear myself talk. I'm saying it because I want it to sink in. When, investing in customers that are going to bring you future income, that is an investment. So hopefully that reinforced your point there, Anthony.
And I got another one too. Again, and I hope again both John and I are not like preaching to you or nothing like that. These are just things I see, and so I'm hoping to avoid seeing them again by sharing up front. So another dilemma is understand you should really attack one avatar, one problem, one solution. I know we get to talk and see these different ideas, but we're seeing the best results when you stick with one. Even if you feel it's really, really niche down and really, really tight, there's surprisingly going to be more people in that niche and that tight thing than you can imagine. So don't let the idea that there's all these other different avatars and all these different people and segments you want to go attack are out there. They're going to always be out there, but darn it, if you get the one and get it going, we're getting the results best when people stick with one and just don't go broad. So again, narrow, defined. So again, if I can just caution you guys to stick with that, it surprisingly brings bigger and better results than you would think. At least what we're seeing.
And the question that comes with that is, if I'm going to stick to one, which one? And that, if you look at the ACT program, very first lesson number 1, What do we want? We want to pick our most profitable segment of the market. It's the first step we take. It answers the question of which one, the most profitable one.
It's a hard lesson learned, guys. I'm one of those people like, man, I see this market, I see this market, I see it. But I'm just telling you from what we see, working with people, the ones we can get to stay on the one, they get the better results.
Yeah, do one thing and do it well.
Yep.
So do you guys have questions? I know we got quite a few people on here. Are you guys like stuck? Do you have things you want to share, experiences, anything you need help with, questions? Basically, we're open for anything you got.
Well, Miss Cheryl, I guess they reviewed your stuff. So where are you at being curious since I wasn't there? So.
Well, I was just chatting with Barb about that. So, I've been the problem child. And that I am not an avatar, I'm a symptom. So we've been kind of back and forth. This is my third time through analysis. I kind of started with pain, and then I kind of sat and talked with John about like addiction seems to be like a real problem that people can wrap themselves around, and how the journal can help prevent that maybe. So part of what's been happening with me is there's not a whole lot of competitor analysis to look at for the medical journal. So therefore, what are people's pain points, and what's the most profitable market has been like, is it this, is it that? And it could really be all of it.
I got to stop you for a minute.
Okay.
It's not a medical journal.
Oh, it's not. It's Take Back Your Health system. Thank you. Take Back Your Health system. So, yes.
Her unique mechanism is.
I was going to say that sounds like a unique mechanism.
Yes. And I know my unique mechanism is a trigger tracker.
There you go.
Which is a part of the medical journal. So we sat down and really, he really helped. We really, kind of went through that. But it's so now I'm back to headaches again as being my market that I'm going after. So I didn't want to dive into creation. We've got really good hooks, and we discussed some really good the unique mechanism and whatnot, but I was kind of feeling like, should I keep going in with creation if I don't jump back into that analysis and do the keyword research and everything again for the headaches as my avatar? So I was kind of like, do I start back over in analysis again, or do I just keep plugging forward, because I was doing headaches when we were beta team at John's. So I think I can pull that information, I still have it, and then just update it. So that's kind of where I'm at. I just keep working through the workbook though. And
yeah, what we did with her was, she kept referring to it as a medical journal, and I'm racking my brain of how we're going to sell a medical journal. And I'm like, you've got to focus on what they want. They might need this, but it's not what they want. I'm like, I'm going to have a lot of trouble to get the heart to desire that.
Yeah.
But then we figured out, okay, what else can we call it? And she says, well, the title is, what was the title?
Take Back Your Health.
Yeah, Take Back Your Health series. And the title of the book is Take Back Your Health, Medical Journal. So the medical journal is like what it is, but Take Back Your Health is what it does. I can get the heart to desire that. So it's like, let's forget the medical journal. Let's sell them what they want and give them what they need. And then I'm like, okay, so what's our unique mechanism? And we got to the bottom of inside there, or what it's doing, what's delivering the result is figuring out what triggers the problem. So it's a trigger tracker. So that's the unique mechanism. So just in that little process, we kind of, it took me probably longer than anything to get my head wrapped around how we were going to position all that.
And that was the hard part, was how to position it. And so it's been a journey. And I think, I've learned through it. And I think John might have even learned how to wiggle through with people.
Yeah,
it's been whew.
Every time I do it, I get even better at it. You know, I was
Mhm.
pretty
Mhm.
decent at it to begin with, but every one I do, it just keeps taking me up to a whole different level every time I do it.
Yeah.
So it's been a really cool journey, a really cool process. And now I know, you know, all these guys that have been doing this for years, I know exactly what they're doing now and how to explain it. That's the tough part right there. How to explain it and how to break it down into formulas so it's repeatable. Because what I went through with Gretchen was exactly what I went through with Cheryl. It's exactly what I went through with Susan. It was a repeatable formula, a repeatable process to get a predictable result. So I feel really good about that, knowing that that is the ACT system now. It is an absolutely repeatable process. And that to me is the most exciting thing of all, that we actually have a repeatable process that we could give to anybody and they could actually learn how to do it. So not that it's going to be easy. I mean, you know, you guys will all be able to do what I'm doing right now with practice, because it's just getting to know it, getting to understand it, becoming familiar with the process. And once you are, you'll be able to do it on your own without me.
Yeah.
And then every time you do it, you'll get better, just like I did. It's like those footsteps. Remember the footsteps? You're going to be walking in the footsteps. I just blazed the trail for you. So all you have to do is just step inside my feet and go for a ride.
Yeah, and once I have this first one done, then I'll just change the symptom to, you know, diabetes or whatever, and I'll just act out that same thing for, you know, a different disease or whatnot. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But which one are you going to go for first?
Take back your health healing system.
Because it's the most
Profitable.
There you go.
Because so many people have headaches.
I did today, as a matter of fact.
I'm telling you, I'm doing my homework.
So what you want to do now, like to take that, because that's an enormous world, just the whole headache in itself.
Yeah.
But the 3 steps to figuring out your most profitable market, the segment, is the number of people. It's got to have enough people to support your sales effort, which you've got that one's covered.
Yep.
The next step to it is they've got to have the money to be able to afford it.
Mm-hmm.
Yours isn't a lot of money, so you don't have a problem there. And then they have to have the willingness to want to afford it.
Right.
And I think, you know, with a little bit of copy, I think we can nail that.
I think so.
But since it's such a big market, we can sharpen the sword on the second piece there. Everybody's going to want it, but not everyone can afford it. Even though it's inexpensive, not everyone with headaches can afford it.
Right.
So in Facebook, what we're going to do as far as an audience is we're going to look for people in a certain age range. We're going to create an audience of a certain age range that, you know, it's an older audience, and it's going to be a wealthy audience. And that's going to get that's going to increase our conversions, because people with expendable income are much more likely to purchase a product than those that are tight on their budget.
Okay.
So when you go to traffic, I want you in a certain age range and a certain income bracket. Because you don't want them to be thinking, yo, man, I'd really like that, but if I get that, then I'm going to have to cut back on somewhere.
Right.
That's not a profitable segment.
Now, without seeing your avatar, Cheryl, I'm going to make an assumption here, John. Would you also want to look at maybe people in certain occupations? And the assumption I'm making is that stress is what's causing my headaches. So people in certain occupations that are highly stressful jobs, would that be a part of that? Does that make sense? Or
that could be a whole nother segment to that inside there. Because if you targeted those, all you do is you just change the copy slightly to what their problem is and what the solution is and what it's costing them. You know, if they're in a like, let's say it's a traffic controller. Guy makes a lot of money. He's pretty high pressure though. What happens if he's got a headache and he's got to leave his seat? That's going to cost him. You know, and it might cost people's lives.
And to add on to that, for me, the cost is productivity. Today, I got to go do a presentation, and I have this call. So I was like, okay, what can I do to get this headache gone so I can be productive for something? And so that would cause me to almost do anything and everything so I would be available and lively for this call type of scenario. So
Yeah.
that gives a little insight.
Yeah. Hey guys, I have a client at 1:30 that I'm late for, so I got to hop on and do a healing session over the phone.
Awesome.
So thank you so much for all of your feedback, and hopefully next call I'll be able to tell you how far along I am in creation.
Very cool. We're looking forward to it.
I'm gonna nail this a little bit more again and get her done.
All right. Well, you go
okay.
do it.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
All
right. Anybody else before we wrap up here?
Well, I was going to pick on Gay over there in the corner. She's in the corner of my screen, and see where. and I'm picking you guys because I don't know where people are at and what's going on. So if you don't want to, it's okay. I just want to make the call lively. Again, we're here to answer questions. So I'm picking on somebody, Gay. So
well, let me just say, she's not one that you put in a corner.
You don't put this baby in a corner. What are you going to pick on me about?
I'm just wondering where you're at in the process. Again, we're at traffic here, but if you're not ready for traffic, I guess I'm looking for a summary so I can cheer you on and motivate you.
Well, Barbara and I are working together. We're very diligent, and we're getting ready. We're finishing up the competitive analysis, and we're kind of doing a pilot aspect in that we are specifically watching every video and going through it methodically, step by step, to see if, what questions do come up and how we need to address them so that we can kind of get feedback from the power that be, John, and basically apply it strategically.
Okay.
They're basically verifying the process, and they're building a campaign to sell ACT. So we're going to put their campaign up against Delaney's campaign.
Oh no!
You know what? I would hazard a guess though. Knowing Barb, knowing Gay, they might have something that could compete with Delaney. I think.
Well, and then again, they've got us on their side. So,
and we had that conversation, John, about your skill level and stuff. So, yeah, I think that's I'm taking that bet.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I worked with the team down there, and I'm not really sure that they're any better at anything than I am. It's just they're much more willing to work hard at it. So all I got to do really is train our team, and we should be in good shape.
Absolutely.
But we'll use them in the process, and get us through the patch we need to get through.
Yep. Well, I'm also going to have to jump off because I have an appointment at 2:00 I have to get to.
All right. Well, we're pretty much at the end of our hour here now anyway. So just I'll do one more last call if anybody's stuck or got anything they want to get answered real quick here.
I've got a completely off the subject type question, but it does refer to traffic.
Okay, sure.
Regarding a client, is there a difference between Facebook retargeting traffic, say using something like your Steelhouse company versus a regular retargeting? Do we know anything about that?
Yes, with Steelhouse, what they're doing is they're retargeting on Facebook, but they're also retargeting on a lot of other platforms. So they're only going to be retargeting to the people that have hit your site or have got the pixel placed. But what it's going to do, it's going to target them on places outside of Facebook as well. So it's much more effective. A lot of times in Facebook, people aren't that attentive to the ads because they're looking at, they're communicating with their families and they're there for social aspects. But when they go outside of Facebook and they start going on like other sites and they start searching around, your ads start showing up everywhere. That's much more powerful and much more effective than just showing up inside of Facebook.
Okay, but the Facebook retargeting ads themselves are the same, whether it's done by a private party or if it's done by them.
Yeah, correct. Inside of Facebook, it's the same, with the exception of who it gets displayed to. Because here's the thing about Steelhouse. Steelhouse has a very robust segmenting mechanism to it. So like in Facebook, if you just do general retargeting inside of Facebook, it's going to retarget everyone. So with Steelhouse, what you can do is you can set parameters. You can say only retarget people that looked at Ford products and retarget them with a Ford ad. And you can also say only take people that were on a page for more than 10 seconds and only retarget them. So you will eliminate all the riffraff. You'll eliminate the bounces, the ones that hit the site left and they had no interest to begin with. So it cuts your ad budget tremendously. It cuts out all the garbage that you would have normally been spending on stuff you didn't have a chance with ever converting. So you can set the criteria down to like incredible levels. You can say only people that went so many pages deep, only people that spent so much time overall on the site, only people that hit this particular product, hit them with this ad, versus anyone that hit anything else, hit them with this other ad. When none of the other retargeting campaigns out there I've seen have that to it. That's what makes Steelhouse so powerful. And the fact that it does it across all the ad networks. So you set it up once and it goes.
Well, let me add to that, John, because let me add a little bit to that, Gwen and John. A couple of things, and John, we haven't talked about this, so there have been some changes. First of all, I want to let you know that the ad campaigns we were planning on doing for the group, we do include the retargeting outside the network. We actually use the Google Tag Manager, and this is getting high level. But we use the Tag Manager, and we put multiple pixels inside that container. One of them is for a display network outside of Facebook, because we recognize that retargeting inside of Facebook is only Facebook itself versus, so we want to we expand that. So that's a part of the process we do, John, that we incorporate. Now, Facebook will let you do some segmentation type of work, but it's very convoluted and not very good at how and the steps to do it. Now, you can do some segmenting, and we do segmenting with the video side. And where we do the segmenting is we segment the time you watch the video. For example, we're running a campaign now, and everybody that's watched the video for 3 seconds or less, we're segmenting. And that segment we're going to exclude on the next campaign. Everybody that's watched the video 50% or higher, we're also having them be dropped into another bucket, and that's going to be who we're going to retarget. So Facebook does give you the opportunity to do some segmenting on the video side specifically. They let you do on the other side, but it's really messy and convoluted and complicated. So not very fun to do that. So John, to the group, we do have the ability outside of Steelhouse to do it. The display network, we're using Ormandson's thing, Traffic Oxygen. And so it does that. It gives you that ability to do that. It's not as highly, they do have the segmenting stuff. Everybody's got the segmenting stuff, but it's more work. And you have to manually more or less set a lot of these pieces up. Something I would not recommend for the group because it sucks to me and I'm doing it. So with Steelhouse having it built into the system and easily, it makes more sense to do, but at a different level, the group has that availability too.
Yeah. Are you doing ad roll as well?
It does include ad roll too, yeah.
Okay.
Almost has got it's got like 72 different networks in there. It's a huge thing. It's actually pretty good overall. But you have to understand again how to utilize the retargeting. You know, because again, you're targeting people, but you either gotta kind of brand it or figure out your message you want to do, and then you got to realize that it's outside of Facebook, so it's a different type of ad. Facebook has only so much text you can put on, stuff like that. You're outside of that parameter, so now you can do a completely different type of thing, different type of ad and creative out there. But also at the same time, you don't get to put like in Facebook, you can put all the text and all that good stuff in there. With these, you can't. You got a 72 by banner size. I don't know the size off the top of my head, but banner size, 300 by 600, 720 by 300, 300 by 120. So you got these different banner sizes that you're working with on that retargeting element.
Yeah, another thing cool about Steelhouse is right built into it, they have an ad builder.
Yeah, that I like. That's I like.
Yeah, you can on the fly, you can build ads, based on any segment you want and have them publish them right there. It's a pretty cool control panel.
If you were going to make a product, John, that would be, that might be the next one you might want to look at, is how to incorporate this, because it is the way we're going with the segmenting. It's a natural extension of ACT. I mean, we're talking about starting people on one segment, one avatar, but they're going to have others, and it's kind of a natural next step, at least in my mind.
Yeah, well, what I want to focus on too, how we've got the video dominator?
Mm-hmm.
It's for segmented video. So once you set up all your different avatars, you could use Video Dominator to separate the herd and give them the right sales video for whichever interest they're in. So for me, that's going to be the next step, is segmented video.
Okay.
I brought that into ACT last August when we first unleashed ACT. And I realized we were not ready for that yet, so I kind of pulled back the reins. But I think that is going to be phenomenal. Like a realtor, they could come in and it could say, 2 buttons, buy and sell. When they click on buy, it'd say, that's awesome. Great that you're here to, to purchase a house. Let me get some more information. Are you a single bachelor? Are you a single mom? Or are you a family that's growing, looking to upgrade? And then they click that button, and then you can talk to them in that language. So the Video Dominator is going to be an awesome product. I've talked to Gary over at Vaxis Hub about potentially taking Vaxis Hub and turning it into this, and then having our own unique system for that that's really robust, because he's built a lot into Vaxis Hub. And it's it's a segmented video marketing tool for email. So he told me for him to convert it to making sales pages would be a piece of cake. So that's probably going to be the next adventure, is segmented video.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. I mean, we've got it now. We've got the Video Dominator, which does it. I just haven't gotten into training anybody really how to do it, how to use it. But it's easy. It requires you to make a bunch of little videos that all just string together. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, that was out a little early. I haven't figured out how to apply it correctly. So yeah, it's still a little early for that.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I think anything else? Anybody else got anything that we didn't cover? All right. Well, let's wrap it up for today, and we'll be back on. Actually, next week we're off. It's the 5th Thursday of the month, so you guys get a break. So the following week we'll be back on Thursday, and we'll be starting over with strategy. So that my favorite part really is the strategy. The analysis everybody hates, but it's one of those wicked evils you just got to do. And in copy, I'm really starting to really like the copy stuff. The copy calls, to me are really creative. And we'll just keep this cycle going until we get everybody moved through and making money. So, all right, guys, have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.